Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I scheduled my fall 2020 classes, what trends I think we might be looking at, and how I physically sit down and schedule an entire semester at once. Let's get started. Fall 2020 is not going to look like our previous fall sessions on Outschool. A lot of students are looking at having to do some distance learning, either full-time distance learning, or some of them are doing kind of a hybrid model of going to school maybe 2 or 3 days a week and then working from home on those other days. So for those reasons, it really looks like we're going to have a higher demand for classes on Outschool this fall. Now this is awesome for us as teachers, but it's also very stressful. I know considering sitting down and scheduling out, 3 or 4 months of your life, that can be really challenging and it can be a little bit overwhelming as well. Now, I've been scheduling my classes by an entire semester for a little while now. I started doing that back in December, I think, of 2019 was the first time I sat down and scheduled my classes out in a semester. And scheduling by the semester really seems to work best for me. It gives me a lot of kind of comfort knowing that I can sit down and in a few hours, it's just done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I think it also really helps my families, especially those who kind of follow me and who'd like to take classes with me, whose students are kind of my regular students. It allows them to look at it in kind of this very broad overview instead of having to kind of keep an eye out on my schedule every few weeks and see what pops up. So for that reason, I recommend scheduling an entire semester at a time, as long as you're able to do so, as long as that's something that works with your family. Now, as far as the logistics are concerned of scheduling an entire semester, there are a bunch of different ways to do this. I know lots of teachers who do this all digitally. They pull up a document, they write it all out. I can't do that. It just doesn't work for me. I tried to do it digitally and I just utterly failed at doing it that way. So the way that I actually do it is a little bit old school. I print out a few calendar pages. So for fall 2020, I printed out September, October, November, and also December. I schedule my classes all the way through a semester. So I start my fall in September and go all the way through until the end of the year. After I've printed out those schedules, after I've printed out those calendars, I go through and I mark in the times that I want to teach. So for example, in summer semester, I taught on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and I usually taught between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. with an hour break for lunch in the noon hour. So I would go in and I would write, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, and 4. My classes always start in the hours. For fall semester, I've decided to only teach 3 days of live classes each week. There's a few different reasons that I've decided to kind of pull back a little bit on my live classes. One is that I'm trying to finish my doctorate. I'm like this close to being finished with it. I have to write my dissertation. So I want to give myself enough time to write that document. The other reason is I also work some contracted positions with Outschool, kind of working behind the scenes in support, and I want to make sure I don't overwhelm myself with my responsibilities. Teaching 4 days a week from 10 to 5, as I've been doing, plus all of my flexible schedule classes, plus that behind the scenes work for Outschool has been really stressful this summer, and I want to make sure I don't overwhelm myself, especially since I should also be working on my dissertation this fall. After I've written those slots into the calendar, the next thing that I do is I schedule my ongoing classes. Ongoing classes usually repeat once a week, or at least my ongoing classes are always just once a week. And these are the classes that kind of bring in the most money for me. They're my most financially successful and also most reliable classes. So because of that, I want to make sure to give them priority. So I go ahead, I figure out how many sections of each class I'm going to put up. Usually I put 3 or 4 depending on the popularity of it, and I fill those in on my paper schedule. So instead of writing out my ongoing classes each and every time on that schedule, I actually usually give them a color, some type of colored pencil or a crayon or a marker, and I just color them in each and every week because I know what they are already. I don't need to write it out 20 times over the course of the semester. That's just kind of going to waste my time. I go ahead then and I pop into the Outschool software and I create the different sections of that class. Do remember to make sure that you do the sections in addition to the paper schedule. When I first did my summer semester schedule, I forgot to do that. And so I created this whole schedule. I was so proud of myself and then realized I had absolutely forgotten to put it into the actual Outschool software. So make sure that you don't make that mistake. After ongoing classes are scheduled, I have a pretty good idea of what time slots are going to kind of be sitting open and available each and every week. The next type of class that I schedule are my multi-day classes. I start with my 9-week courses. I put those on the calendar, usually just once a semester. And from there, I kind of put in my 4-week classes as well. Now, my 4-week classes tend to be a little bit more popular than my 9-week classes, and I imagine with kind of the amount of uncertainty that a lot of families are going to have in the fall, scheduling smaller sections of courses as opposed to entire semester-long classes might be a good option. It might be a way to kind of ensure that you get the enrollment and that you don't have the headache of dealing with students needing to potentially miss weeks during your class and wanting to, find makeup times and that type of stuff. Because I feel like a lot of our students and their families just don't know what's going on for fall. I often run my 4-week classes 2 or even 3 times a semester. Most of them are fairly popular and they seem to get the enrollments to allow me to do that. So I go ahead and I put those on my calendar next. From there, all that's left are one-time classes. So I look at my list of one-time classes, I offer a ton of them, and I kind of write down the ones that are super, super popular. So for example, my Peter and the Wolf class is a very popular course. It almost always fills up almost any time that I schedule it. So I go ahead, I throw that up on there next. I'm going to put it in, 2 or maybe even 3 times a month because I know those sections are going to fill. I do that with all of my popular one-time classes. After I've kind of gotten my most popular ones on, I go through and I pick the ones that I really enjoy, but maybe they don't get tons of enrollment, or ones that are a little bit shorter. I have some half-hour one-time classes, for example, and I allow those to just fill in the gaps. So after I've done all of that, it can take a while. It usually takes about 2 hours or so. My entire schedule is finished up for the fall, and that's awesome. It's so great to just be done with the scheduling part of it. I think that's one of my least favorite parts of teaching online, and to be able then to offer it up to my families and say, here's what I'm doing for the next 4 or 5 months. I like to complete my schedules at least 2 months before the next semester begins, and I start seeing enrollments in those classes, within those 2 months, without a doubt. I have people who are scheduling already for December. We're in July right now. So there's definitely a lot of pros to scheduling yourself out this way. Now, if those one-time classes maybe don't fill up or the 4-week classes don't fill up, it's not a huge deal. If I don't see any enrollments in a class about a week before it's going to start, and I think there's a chance there won't be enrollment, I'll go ahead, I'll cancel that section, and I'll swap in some of those more popular one-time classes that I know will get the students in. So you do have to keep an eye on your schedule kind of as you're going throughout the semester. But it's a lot less work than sitting down every week and trying to figure out your schedule for the 2 weeks out or 3 weeks out or however else you could do it. One other thing that I do for my semester classes, and something that I found a lot of success in and found it to be pretty helpful, is I create an infographic with all of my semester classes. I'll go ahead and put that in here. This graphic is made using Canva. Check out my video to see how to make your own. This infographic just shows my parents what types of classes I'm going to be offering up in the fall semester. I've been using it a lot on social media, linking it just to my registration link. I've also put it up on my personal website, put it up on my Facebook page, Instagram, all of those good things, and it seems to really be helping me. I'm getting a lot of positive reactions from that infographic, so that's something I'm definitely going to continue doing in the future. I hope that this was helpful and this gave you some ideas about how to schedule your own fall semester, and I wish you the best of luck in fall 2020. Bye for now.